Welcome to the Local Business Show. Seth Greene is a nationally recognized marketer who is the nation's foremost authority on growing local businesses through direct response marketing podcasts, and the only person to be nominated 3 times for the GKIC Dan Kennedy Marketer of the Year Award. Seth will be joined by a capable cohort of co-hosts who are each local business marketing experts in their own right. On the podcast, Seth and his co-hosts brings together small business owners and other local business authorities to share with you their inspiring stories of how they started their local business, how they serve their local business clients, how they grow their local business, and how you can too. And now, here's your host, Seth Greene.
Welcome to the podcast. This is Seth Greene. Today I have the good fortune to be interviewing Jerome Maldonado of J. Jacob Enterprises. J. Jacob Enterprises is a full-service company specializing in all areas of construction and real estate in New Mexico. Jerome, thanks so much for joining us.
How are you doing today, Seth?
I am awesome. Let's go back in time a little bit. How'd you get started?
So I got started back in the 90s. I was actually in direct sales and network marketing, and the FTC made some changes back in 1997. And I landed up back in college here at the University of New Mexico. And so I landed back in Albuquerque. I was living in San Antonio for a long while. And through the sheer means of just being an entrepreneur, I started working with my brother-in-law, doing some construction stuff. And I got my license and I knew how to sell and market. And the business took off. The first year I opened it up back in 1998. And we did about 7 figures, just a little over $1 million in sales that first year in business. And the rest is history. We started deploying money into real estate, and we've been doing stuff all over. I've been doing stuff all over the Southwest here for a good number of years. So it's been a great run, Seth. It's been very blessed to have been saddled in the shoes that I have been.
All right. Well, congratulations on that. What do you tell us a little bit about some of the types of projects you work on and what J. Jacobs does?
So J. Jacobs just one entity. So that one is our construction facilitated development company in the Albuquerque, New Mexico area. And we do a lot of land development. So we do a lot of single family home residential development in that area. But we have a multitude of LLCs and companies that we have ownership of. And so we have a $25 million project that we're doing up in Seattle, Washington area right now. It's a housing development. We're doing a lot of smaller 1,500 square foot homes in that area. And we're servicing the tech industry in that area. And so we're excited about that project. We have a lot of value add projects in the multifamily area, doing another $16 million project down in Phoenix right now, where we just purchased an office building and we're turning it into 105 units of multifamily. And so it's a full new redevelopment project that we're doing. And then we also have some projects going down in Palm Springs where we're doing some single family home development, and a couple projects down in Puerto Rico where we're doing the same. So we have a lot going on in different areas. And so we do a lot of land in single family residential development and multifamily development is what our specialty is right now.
All right. And what do you like best about what you do?
So the money, right? Freedom, flexibility, the money. I can lie to everybody and say, I don't like the money. Everything that I do is stressful, Seth. You know, I could tell people there's work involved in everything that we do. So none of this came by accident, and there's always a little bit of luck in business, but it all comes from consistent hard work. I didn't come from money as a kid. So when I put this together, I started small and very humbling, a lot of ups and downs, trials and tribulations, and we live them. You know, it's what everybody lives. I know that a lot of people think that you just go from point A to point Z overnight, and you don't. So what I love most about what I do, in all honesty, is the freedom and flexibility. I don't really think about the money that I need to live. We just live. Our kids are fortunate to be able to do what they want to do in regards to their sports, their athletics. We don't really worry about the financial end. Our worry and stress more comes from a business perspective, right? Making sure things are financially viable and the day-to-day stress that's encountered with that. What I love most is the freedom and flexibility the finances has given us over the years.
Absolutely. What are some of the biggest mistakes you find people making in the real estate world that you're helping them fix?
I think fear is one of the biggest factors why people don't make it, but I think laziness is the biggest factor in every industry, not just real estate. And I don't know that I'm helping them fix it, but I try to I let people know that you got to be consistent over the course of a good duration of time. And when I say good duration of time, it takes a lifetime to build wealth, Seth, but it's one of those things where in a decade, you can change your entire life in a decade. If you take advantage of one downturn of the economics, if you take advantage of one decade, of a full decade run in real estate and business, it can be life-changing financially. So one of the big things that I help people understand is that there's always a roadmap, and there's a roadmap available. Most people don't know where that roadmap is, but you got to unfold it. And as you unfold that roadmap, if you stay on the roadmap and you look at it instead of just starting at the beginning, most people make the mistake. They open up the roadmap, they look at it, and then they fold it back up, they put it away, and they never look at it again. And they hope to get to their final destination without any mistakes. And it's the biggest mistake that people make. And so what I tell people is, look, open your roadmap, put it on the side of you. And every time you're going up a different street, just look over at your roadmap, make sure you're on track. It's the way we manage projects. It's the way I manage my life. It's the way I talk to my kids about their sports and athletics. And so one of the biggest things is just fixing it up here so that you understand just the simple concepts of how to follow that roadmap and execute long term.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to individual projects, like if you're building, what are some of the mistakes like homeowners are making?
Homeowners in regards to just buying
or building?
So, it depends what they're doing. It depends what their vision is. I think one of the biggest things is most people get into home ownership for the wrong reasons, right? When I was young, I didn't have a family. I wasn't as motivated to get into home ownership because I didn't have that need. So I kept deploying money into assets and continue to grow my wealth. And so what most people do is they feel like they have this pride piece of real estate where they go, okay, this is my home. And a home is nothing more than a liability if you don't exercise it with caution and you don't utilize it as an asset. And so most people misunderstand assets and liabilities, what real money and financial literacy is. And so I always tell people, look, your assets have to be able to produce money for you on your behalf in spite of your own efforts. And so one of the biggest mistakes that most homeowners make is they park themselves in this piece of real estate. They get a 30-year mortgage and they pay that thing over the course of 30 years. And they're paying for that house 2 to 3 times over what its value is. And they're paying a ton of money in interest to their mortgage company. And the central banking system runs our country financially in all reality. And what most people don't realize is that they make their money and our central banking systems run off the economics of lending capital out. And so one of the biggest things, there's little tools and pivots that people can make in home ownership to cut years off of their home mortgage if they just have a little bit of financial literacy and if they understand how to buy correctly. And not only buy correctly, but also get into cash producing assets that actually pay for those assets for them. And so that's a whole other course in itself. And that's a whole other day of conversation, Seth. But that's a big piece of where most homeowners are making mistakes when they're going in and buying real estate.
Absolutely. And then what about some of the mistakes they're making when actually building the home?
When they're building the home, they get emotional. That's the big thing is emotions take over, and emotions is warm and as fuzzy as they make us feel when things are going good. They also make us feel tarnished and bad when things are going wrong, right? Emotions get the better end of people. Building a house is a business like anything, right? When you wake up in the morning, most people don't wake up with this sorrow emotion of anxiety to go to work. They just go to work most times, right? When they build a house, a lot of times they go into it with full-fledged emotion, and it's nothing more than a business. You got to go into it methodical and having a plan of action, and you tackle each problem in each day just like you would when you show up to work doing anything you do on a professional basis. And that's the biggest mistake most people make, because they exercise everything on emotion instead of logic.
That's why they call it residential feel estate, right?
That's right. Feeling that emotion 24 hours a day, every day that they're doing it.
And talk a little bit about, because you've had such an incredible history and been part of so many amazing projects. What are some of your favorites?
I'd say, what's funny is when the sword seems like it's sharpened and slicing you in a bad way, sometimes those projects are the ones that come out to be your favorite. When the 2008 economic recession hit and things were at their toughest from December of 2008 all the way to April of 2009, it was a small window that was really temperature taking. And I put my head down and went to work. And I was buying real estate for the sheer means to service the debt on developments, on retail developments that I had going. And for no other reason, Seth, for no other reason than just to help service that debt. I didn't think of it as a long-term holding. I didn't think of it as it developing wealth for me. It was really an act of desperation at the time just to be able to service debt on developments that I was doing. And lo and behold, even though I felt like I was not increasing my net worth, and I felt like it took me 5 years just to clean that whole mess up, I took a conglomerate of what I call D-real estate, just these really poor fourplexes that I bought in some single family homes that were in the less affluent areas of Phoenix. And I landed up 1031 exchanging that into, at the time, it was a $7.2 million purchase, which is now worth over $13 million just with the sheer appreciation of multifamily and everything. And it came from a bunch of garbage that I bought. And I was less than $1 million into all this stuff, cash out of pocket, financed 100% of it back out. And so I was zero in. And I have $13 million from that one project that I did back in 2009, 2010 that just turned into something incredible. And that's just one deal, one project. And that can be life-changing for almost anybody. And so that's probably my favorite projects. I love telling that story because it was almost just out of a naive desperation that I put that together, and it just turned out to be something incredible. And so I believe if you're just pushing in the right direction, in your mind, your heart, and your ethics are in the right place, you're going to get to a level of success that's even beyond your imagination if you're just pressing in the right direction. So
absolutely. Where is it? Sounds like you have projects in many different locations. What's the geographic region that you're covering?
Mostly the Southwest. So Phoenix and New Mexico has been our primary areas for many, many, many years. In fact, I was doing stuff down in the Phoenix metro area back in the late 90s when Peoria was really going gangbusters in the late 90s, and it's still going gangbusters today. But Phoenix is a different place than it is. It's a different place today than it was back then. I pulled out of Phoenix when the market was at its highest, and I was doing stuff in Texas and New Mexico back in 2004, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then 2009, I went back to Phoenix. But because of what's happening right now, I always promised myself I would never put myself in the same position that I was in back in 2008. And so we went into very affluent markets. What I do is I do market research stuff. Puerto Rico, for example, just because of the tax benefits of Puerto Rico, the ultra wealthy, you have to know what demographics you're hitting, right? You have to know what market sector that you're penetrating. So many times people go into markets with blinders on and their eyes closed. So we're hitting Puerto Rico because of the tax benefits, but the people that we're hitting out there is the ultra wealthy. So we're building $7 million homes that will sell for an upwards of $13 million, but it's a specific market that we're hitting in a short time frame. That's why we pushed into that market. The Seattle area, the reason we're hitting there is because of the boom of tech. If the market tanks, our profitability is double what it is here in New Mexico and even Arizona on our single family dwellings. So if we take a 30% drop in profit and we're making, a few $100,000 and we go down to making 6 figures per house to $100,000 per house, it's still a win-win situation for us. We'll make less, but we're in a very safe market sector. And so very methodical. We're penetrating different markets for different reasons. And the multifamily sector in Phoenix, it's a different place now. It's like I said, it's a different breed. So Phoenix is still where my heart is. Albuquerque is where my family is. So my heart is also there. So those are our two primary markets, but we always go into other markets, exercising the benefits that each market has to bear, depending on the market sector that we're in at that time.
That makes a lot of sense. What are some of the biggest lessons you learned along the way?
I've learned a lot of lessons, man. I've learned a lot of lessons, and I'm still learning, Seth. I think patience is probably one of the biggest lessons. I'm not a very patient person. I've always had the model of, I'm not a physician. I don't need patience, right? Kind of just a quacky humor. But patience, building wealth and just doing anything great in life, it takes time. At a young age, my parents used to tell me all the time, right? As wise as our parents, as wise as they really are, but as ignorant as you think they are. And now I'm one of those ignorant parents, right? That my kids think I'm ignorant to stuff, but very wise in other sectors. I've learned patience, and it's one of the lessons that I think is probably one of the biggest assets that I've learned is just unfold the story, push every day as hard as you can. As you push every day and you wake up and you push in that direction, don't be patient doing nothing. Be patient being persistently executing a plan. And if you're persistent in executing a plan every day and you're patient to let that plan come into fruition, it will. And I've just learned that through sheer consistency and patience, things do unfold, and they do unfold in a promising way. Even if you're not the most intelligent or best at what you do in the world, you'll get there.
Absolutely. How does Jacobs Enterprises, how do you differentiate yourself?
Quality, for sure. We're unique in what we do. I stay on top of market trends. I always have. I've been diversified my whole career. I'm always looking outside of the box. I'm never looking outside of my scope, right? So, those the brown paper towel deals where you say you look through it and, I always tell people, don't get so tunnel visioned that you can't see the world around you, but get tunnel visioned on what your goal is and just look through that little paper towel deal and stay focused on what you're doing. What differentiates us is I've always stayed focused on what I'm doing, but I've always stayed diversified in market trends. And so what differentiates us in all of our companies that I own is the fact that I'm always staying on top of market trends. I'm always reading. I stay up to date on the latest and the greatest as far as designs, and I implement. I'm not afraid to implement. In fact, I'm more afraid not to implement than I am to implement, because I got stuck in that back in the recession. I got comfortable making the money I was making, building the same type of product, and I wasn't staying up with the times. So when the time stopped, it was the stuff that was selling was the stuff that was most up to date and most current. And so I've just learned over the years that always stay on top of the game. And one of the things that differentiates us is that in itself, is the quality and staying up to date and current with things.
For our folks who are watching and listening and want to learn more about you and all the things you've got going on, where is the best place for them to go?
Just Google me, JeromeMaldonado.com. You can go to Jerome Maldonado, Maldonado, and I'm sure we have it in the chat down below. But just click on the link. You can find me on Instagram at Jerome Maldonado and the number 1, on all other social media platforms, including LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Just Google Jerome Maldonado and you'll find me. Our numbers are on there for our office, our team, and I'm real easy to find. Just look for the same type of the same headshot almost everywhere that you go. We're here, we're around, and we love working with new people.
Awesome. This has been Seth Greene with Jerome Maldonado of JeromeMaldonado.com. Jerome, thanks so much for joining us.
Seth, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you having me here.
Thanks everybody for watching or listening. We'll see you or talk to you next time.